everybody. My name is Mary Catherine.
And I'm Sebastian.
And welcome to the second episode of the Super Dope Book Club.
Yeah.
So last week we discussed Becoming by Michelle Obama. And it was our first episode, and we are very proud of everything we did. And I just want to go ahead and thank everyone for checking it out. Because if you're checking out this episode, you probably checked out the first one, and that just means so much to us.
It really does. We really appreciate the time for you to just check out our podcast, whether it be in Spotify or YouTube. And if you have any thoughts at any point in time, feel free to just give us any comments in whatever form you guys would like.
You could comment on our YouTube, or if you wanted to email us, you could hit us up at thesuperdopebookclub@gmail.com, or, most likely if you're watching this, it's just because you know us personally, so just message us or text us.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to get as much perspectives as we can from other individuals. Eventually, we do want to bring people in here and get their perspectives, from live people.
Yeah.
But as of right now, we can't. We're pretty young.
And coronavirus also. So.
Yeah, that too. So we just want to stay safe for now. So more on that eventually. But for now, we first would like to introduce ourselves properly. We forgot to do that last time completely. I'm so sorry about that, guys.
I was about to forget to do it again. Thank you, Sebastian.
So that's what I'm here for. So here we go. My name is Sebastian Torres. That's my actual full name. I do not have a middle name, just like everybody. I know that is crazy and surprising. But I was born in Colombia, the country, not the city. I came to the United States when I was about 10 years old. I lived in Maryland up until about 3 years ago, and I'm 28 right now, so that goes to tell you I'm basically a Maryland individual, I guess. I studied there. I went to middle, high school. I also went to college there, to Salisbury University. I graduated with business management and minor in information systems. And then I just moved to Florida when about 3 years ago with my girlfriend MK here. And now we're just living the dream.
I'm Mary Catherine Overstreet. My middle name is Rose because I'm not weird. Okay, I'm super weird, but also I have a middle name. I was born in Iowa, and I lived there until 7th grade, and then I moved to Maryland. I consider myself more of a Maryland person. I spent most of my life there. I went to college in Salisbury. I also went to Salisbury University. No, we did not meet there. My degree was in acting, and I had a minor in art, theater performance and art. And then 3 years ago, me and Sebastian had only been dating a couple months, and we were like, you know what, let's just move to Florida. So we did it. We've lived in a couple places in Florida. We started in Daytona Beach, then St. Pete. Right now, we're coming to you live from Clearwater.
Yeah, we like to travel around. I guess to explain a little bit more of how we met, for the individuals that don't know us personally, is we actually met at a restaurant. I was actually... at the time, I was thinking about moving somewhere else, and then I was like, you know what, let me go try and serve at this Ocean City place, because apparently there was a lot of money there. And I got this job, and I met her, and I completely fell for her, and I was like, you know what, I think I'm just gonna move away, far, far away, and just take her from everybody.
And it worked out really, really well for both of us.
Not really what I was thinking at all whatsoever, but
you heard it. He just wanted to take me away, guys, and I love that. Since then, we've gone on many adventures. We love to travel. We like to, especially out of the country. Mm-hmm. But right now, that's obviously not feasible.
Yeah. We like to go to the gym a lot as well.
Yeah, big gym people. And if not for Sebastian, I'd be less of a gym people. Yeah. We run a lot. I ran a mile today, guys. I PR'd. Whoop whoop. Just letting you know. So that tells you a lot about us. We're really goofy.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do everything together. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and as you would imagine, we like to read a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
So
and as the episodes go forward, you guys will learn a whole lot more about ourselves. We just don't feel like telling you our whole entire lives. Right?
There'd be a whole episode,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
about each of us or longer. So you'll learn the tidbits from our perspectives and what we have learned through the books we are reading, most likely. Most likely that's how you'll get to know us.
100%.
So let's take it to our first official book club book. We have Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. I didn't know anything about 50 Cent, I guess. I thought he was a rapper. I knew he had been shot 9 times. I knew he was, you know, a tough guy, and I knew he was ripped. And that's all I knew about 50 Cent until I started reading this book. I had no idea he's a famous actor. I've never seen the show Power. I've never seen any of his movies, and he has been, ever since he's been out of music, he's just been constantly working with his acting career and other entrepreneurial things that I had no idea about.
Yeah, I did know that after he was kind of like weaving off from rapping and going into more like entrepreneur stuff, that he was releasing like his cognac, I believe it is.
Ooh, and vitamin water.
Yeah, like I did know about those couple of things, but I mean, I never looked too much into it, so I didn't know that this guy was doing so much, and I did not know that he had this book out completely.
I didn't know when we chose this book that it's actually a self-help book written by 50 Cent.
Yeah, and when our friend Brandon brought it up, just from hearing the name, I was like, okay, you got me hooked. Then I read the background, I guess, very short introduction, so to speak, or what it's about, or summary.
It says there's no such thing as making it. No matter how much money you stack, fame you achieve, or success you taste, there are going to be more struggles, more drama, more obstacles. The goal is not just to be successful, it's about learning how to sustain that success, a skill I had to learn the hard way.
Absolutely. Yep, I love that. Every bit of it. And whenever you jump right into it,
it's so hard to stop, honestly. So in the intro, he lets us know like what he's going to be teaching us. And from the beginning, I'm like, oh, I didn't know 50 Cent's a little funny. Because he started talking about how he's in his 4th decade and he's starting to get some wrinkles and, you know, there's some gray in his goatee. But he was like, but I still got a 6-pack and a strong hairline, though. He didn't want you to think there's anything. He's like, I still got it.
Absolutely.
So then he wanted to let us know he got to the top by being 50 Cent. But it was actually a whole nother persona he just put on to make it. But the only way he stayed there was by being himself, Curtis Jackson, and that is the man who was able to keep him there. So through this, he then lets us know his different ideologies.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that a split persona of Curtis Jackson / 50 Cent. I love how he differentiates between the two. He knows one likes to take high risks and spend the cash and get to the top, like I guess that would be 50 Cent. And then the other man would be, he's a more reserved and more well-informed individual and thinks a lot more straight than 50 Cent.
He's extremely practical and anxious even. Curtis Jackson would be the first one he's going to look up before he gets into an endeavor, everything about it and obsess over it, and it'll actually give him anxiety if he doesn't know everything about the project he's getting himself into.
Yeah, he likes to be very practical. He likes to take all emotions completely out of it, and I completely understand from experience, from my personal career from that. So whenever he goes into business or whatever scenario that he possibly can remove his emotions and think as practical as possible, he will do that. But I do like the fact that he does keep 50 Cent in mind in the back of his head, because he was like, all right, 50 Cent is the one that brought me to the top, so to speak.
Yes.
But then he takes the Curtis Jackson that is more level-headed and uses that success, so to speak, to just use it to his advantage, like leverage it better.
Yeah, and so he does this by following several basic principles. I'm going to tell you the principles themselves, but we're not going to go deep into them because each chapter, that's what it's doing. But the principles are: be fearless, cultivate the heart of a hustler, build a strong crew, know your value, evolve or die, shape perception, Don't be afraid to compete, learn from your L's, and avoid the entitlement trap. So, from that, we'll get started because I don't want to do a bunch of spoilers for what's coming.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, right.
I just want to start by saying 50 Cent brings up the fact that some people think reading sucks. It says, growing up, reading was often seen as an assignment that must be endured instead of a tool that can help improve your life. He said, personally, I didn't get into reading until I found writers like Donald Gaines and Iceberg Slim who wrote in a voice that felt familiar to me. Their style made me comfortable, and once I had that, it gave me the confidence to start exploring authors who didn't come from the same background as me. I found that you need to learn about multiple examples and read about multiple scenarios before certain principles start to sink in. So he learned that reading is a huge part of growth, and it helped him improved his entrepreneurial spirit, and it helped him make better business decisions. So he's just doing what we're doing, trying to get people out here reading, y'all.
Yeah, absolutely, and I love it.
All right, so we'll just start from the beginning, and it is be fearless. Finding his fearlessness. It starts off, he's got this guy that works in his office, and he's always taking crazy selfies. Like, he'll come in and be like, guys, look, I took this picture on top of a skyscraper the other day, and his, feet are dangling off a skyscraper, and everyone is just like, dude, you're crazy. And 50 Cent sees that, and when he sees fear, he wants to overcome it because it makes him feel free. So he sees an opportunity for freedom through this guy's crazy actions, and he's like, hey man, let's go up on this roof and take a crazy picture right now, let's go. And he takes him up on the roof and gets on top of this water tower, and he makes him take this crazy picture, and right afterwards his insurance company is like, if you ever do that again, we're dropping you.
And then he goes on to say, they should have seen it coming, because I am this type of human. I like to take risks. I want to get over any kind of fears that I possibly can, and I just wanna just do it, not even thinking twice about it. And I love every bit of that, because he's trying to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
And honestly, that I can definitely relate to. I'm trying my best to do the exact same thing, and by reading this, it just gave me even more of a boost.
He says, a lot of people probably think I was born fearless. The difference between me and those people is I just refuse to allow myself to grow comfortable in those fears. Comfort, I've learned, is a dream killer. And I never thought about that, but it's so true, because if you don't step out of your comfort zone, you'll never do any of the things you wanted to do. Like, when I went to college, it was very out of my comfort zone, especially because the first thing I had to do on my first day of school was go do auditions for plays. And I had never really done an audition. I mean, I did my high school auditions, but it was one play that everyone auditions for their senior year, you know? This is actors, and I walked into my first audition, and the two people who were auditioning were so good. They were beautiful, powerful women, and I turned around and I walked back out of that audition room. I just want to let you guys know, Kat, Jen Manning, you two, I walked out because you guys were killing it. They both also got the roles, just to let you know. But that was right there, fear killed one of my dreams, because I had practiced for that audition for my entire summer, and I never even auditioned.
Wow.
I walked right out.
That's scary.
That's terrifying, and that brings me to his second part, which says, don't be afraid to get hit, which is what I was afraid of. I was afraid I wasn't going to get a call back, and then I was going to be hurt. But he realized early on that he can't do team sports because he doesn't want to be able to blame anyone else for what went wrong or rely on anyone else. He wants to make sure he is the one that gets him to where he needs to go. So he gets into boxing.
Yeah.
When he gets into boxing, they're taking care of, they go into this ring that is the police fund it, but it's like a really crappy gym, and he goes in there, and there's these two guys that are really big on his block, and it's the one guy who makes all the money, and then the other guy who's kind of his muscle, and he antagonizes them. He just comes after them. He's like, hey, I don't see you out here throwing punches. And then the big guy's like, what? And he's like, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the little one.
Yeah, I think he said that punching bag is not gonna punch back.
Yes, that is exactly what he said. That punching bag is not going to punch back. And he even tells us that there's a point where it, like, he could have just, like, they could have just dropped him right there. But for some reason, instead, they saw what he was doing and they really respected him about it. And one of the things he learned in boxing is if you don't like getting hit, then you need to do something about it. So that from there, those guys took care of the gym and made it a nicer place for him to, like, train and get himself. Because he was a big boy.
And honestly, this sentence is so important, not only into boxing, but like your entire life. It's such a powerful, powerful sentence. If I didn't like getting hit, then I needed to do something about it. If you don't like where you're at right now, I mean, it's really simple. Just do something about it. We do have this power of decision. That means we can literally choose to do whatever it is that we want. One point in time, we always talked about it, starting a podcast. It had literally been almost since we met, probably.
And we always wanted to do something that involved perspective, but we didn't know how, and we never put our foot forward either to figure it out.
Right, and it wasn't until, all right, we finally sat down, we figured it out what it is that we wanted to do, and then we just went on, bought what it is that we needed to buy, and just started it. Literally just stepping into the unknown, not knowing what's going to happen in the near future. I mean, who cares, right? There's only one way to find out.
And we bought a lot of the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
Like our Amazon returns are off the chain right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So that being said, I mean, that you can literally apply that sentence to just about anything. So if you don't like what it is that you're doing, or who you're with, or where you're at, or it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, there's always a way to get out of it. You just gotta find resilience and the power to do so.
Which takes us to his next header, is facing fear head on. You're afraid, you gotta do something about it. And he says he hated being scared. He hated looking over his shoulder, because this is after he gets shot 9 times. Well, after that, he's afraid to go outside. Of course, he's afraid to go outside. He just got shot 9 times, and now he's back at his house in his neighborhood, knowing that the guy who didn't kill him might get killed himself for not completing the job, or he might be after him to save his own skin. So he's always looking over his shoulder. For a few days, he doesn't do his rehab programs.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be out running. So then he gets all his friends together, and he's like, guys, I need you to help me. Tomorrow morning, I need y'all to come with me and run and just have my back. And there was like 9 or 10 dudes, okay? And he said, trust me, when you get hurt that bad, there's a shift. You want to approach the problem instead of run from it, which is exactly what I did. He got his crew together, and then the next morning, only one of the guys showed up.
Yeah.
And not only did only one guy show up, but he was like an out of shape dude also.
Yeah.
But so he gave him his bike, and he was like, you just ride your bike with me. And 50 took a gun and taped it to his hand. And he taped it so big that you couldn't even tell there was a gun in his hand, and people knew that he was a boxer, so they just accepted it. And he would just pull the sleeve over it so no one knew, but that way if anyone came at him, he could just get him.
Yep.
He could just get him. He didn't have to get him, though.
All the other guy had to do is just ring the bell and be like, oop, that's the one.
Danger! Ding ding! Danger!
Yeah.
That's so scary.
That's
so terrifying.
But talking about anxiety, like knowing that somebody's out there that didn't finish a job on you and you got shot 9 times, and if you as a human being think that you're feeling anxious right now because of a very small thing, just think about this human being that literally had to just get up every single morning and think that there was somebody out there to get him.
Yep. And by him doing that, it was an extension of his learning from his boxing instructor, whose name was Allah Understanding. And what Allah Understanding said was, instead of being afraid of getting hit and just giving up, do things that make you a difficult target. In the ring, that meant staying on my toes, moving constantly, keeping my hands up. On the street, it meant jogging with a bodyguard and a pistol up my sleeve. So, that was huge for me. Because that's a perspective change. That's something I've never had to deal with in my life. I've never been shot. I've never been shot at. I saw a gun once in driving around Cambridge, and it scared the piss out of me. Okay, and I was like, well, I'm not going back there. And I did not. And it was just like I was just driving around. I was like, Not this street. Keep going. Like, so for him to have to live with that constantly is absolutely terrifying to me. So it's just another opener of perspective.
Yeah.
And it's also another thing I wanted to touch on because that is something a lot of people in the Black community have to deal with every day. And I think it would just be irresponsible of us to not use this platform we have created to mention Black Lives Obviously Matter.
Oh yeah.
There's a reason that's an issue. People aren't just making things up. Black Lives Matter, and everything we're reading in this book, seeing this other perspective. Right now, the next spot in the book is called "Raise Your Hand," and it's about how if you know everything, you did put in all the work, you did everything you need to do, then you need to boss up and raise your hand in that meeting. And the reason this comes back to Black Lives Matter is because he knew from the beginning he was at a disadvantage. And he lets you know if you're not a white guy or didn't get into the right prep school, you might have to go a little harder to get the credit you deserve. It shouldn't be that way, but it's what it is for now. And I love that word for now because this, like, Black Lives Movement's been going on a while, but this specific piece of this movement just started right after. Now that we're actually making progress, it happened after this book came out. So it's just really powerful in that moment. Especially the words "for now."
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you've put in the work and know your shit, raise your damn hand every single time. Because he took a guy into his meeting.
Yes, he took one of his friends into his meeting. He's supposed to know everything that about the project in and out. Actually, this guy knew it better than 50 Cent did, and they talked about it back and forth, back and forth. Went into this meeting with his executives. They were all dressed up, and I guess because they looked nice, he got super intimidated. And this guy just basically looked like he was just a guy that was just riding with 50 Cent and didn't feel like talking. He got really shy and just kind of like blew it.
He didn't say a word.
No.
The other guys just started talking about their ideas, and this guy did not say a word. And that's the reason 50 Cent brought him in the room. He was supposed to be his expert. That's the reason he was there, was to shine. And he was so intimidated, he just didn't let that light shine. So that's why he said that's why it's so critical that you identify the things you're afraid of and put in the work to get past that fear. Because this guy might not have even known he was afraid of that type of competition.
Yeah. I love all of this too because I can definitely relate to this a lot. Before, I guess where I'm at right now. Before this time, I was the type of the individual that I would be very shy to raise my hand, just because I don't know. I didn't like to bother people. But at the end of the day, 50 Cent definitely does make a point. I mean, if you're not gonna raise your hand and you do know what you're talking about, you do know the ins and outs of what it is that you want to raise your hand about, why not?
It's your fears holding you back, because if you don't say something, how is anyone going to know that you know anything? This guy was so smart and was the expert on this topic. He said nothing, and he walked out there looking like an asshole. He didn't mean to, but he got too scared. So that's that whole point of chapter 1, is just like overcome your fears. They're just holding you back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that takes us to chapter 2, Heart of a Hustler. Things may come to those who wait, but only the things left by those who hustle. Which is a sick line, by the way. It was said by Anonymous, so I just... 50's not even sure. So he starts this chapter with an anecdote about a woman from Brazil named Maria da Graça Silva. I may have said that wrong. But she got an internship at Petrobras, which is the country's largest oil and gas company. And she was determined to outwork all the men who were her competition. So then in 2012, she was named the Petrobras CEO, becoming the first woman in the world to lead a major oil company, and Forbes named her the 16th most powerful woman in the world. When asked how she did it, she said it's been a very long story of hard work and personal sacrifice. Because she had the heart of a hustler. She went in there knowing she was at a disadvantage, and she hustled her way to the 16th most powerful woman in the entire world. Yeah. So, none of the strategies in this book that involve hustling smarter, like building a strong crew, embracing evolution, knowing your value, or controlling perception, can be successfully implemented without also hustling your hardest first. No matter what any of these say, it can't help you unless you're putting forth the effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
For him, every 18-hour day on the set is fun for me. He doesn't even sleep 8 hours, mind you.
Yeah, he really doesn't. He likes to put in the work. He likes to grind it out. He loves every bit of the process. He doesn't care about the money. He just is there to do his own thing. He's there to prove himself that he can do it, and he wants to become a better human than he was the day before.
That's the best part. He's not even out here competing with anyone anymore. He knows he's at the top.
No.
He's competing with himself. Personal growth. How can I be better? Because he even says no one's ever going to outwork me.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, out there is competitors to him, but he's only looking at the one road and one road only, and that is his own. He wants to stay in his own lane. He's very focused, and he is going to get things done.
Which is something I love and I think is so relatable, because a lot of people, especially at our age, in the 20s at all, these 20-something kids, especially the ones who go to college and graduate, or the ones who don't, they compare themselves to each other, especially with social media. They look and they're like, oh, well, my classmate has a full-time job, has kids, and they're married, and they just bought a house. They're obviously living the dream.
Yeah.
Well, not everyone has the same dream. And just because you see that does not mean that it is something you have to take to heart, because my biggest thing is never comparing myself to others. My journey is my own. If I want to look at the people I went to school with and compare myself, of course there are people I could look at and be like, oh, I didn't do that yet. But I'm not ready. That's not part of my journey, and everyone's journey has a different timeline, and it's just so important to compete with yourself instead of the people around you.
Yeah, mind you, I had to step away from social media because I kept doing that. I think right now you actually run my Instagram. I only have Facebook because of my career of what I do, and I only look at one thing only.
And I only run his Instagram so that we could get this podcast started, so that he could be out there being like, hey guys, follow us on Instagram, so that people would know that it even existed on his half of the platform.
Right, and even then, I didn't really care too much about what happened with it, just because I kept doing what everybody keeps doing, just kind of comparing yourself to somebody else. So in my career, a lot of these people just post these things on Instagram, and it makes me jealous because I can't achieve such things yet.
I was say, don't say can't, haven't achieved these things yet.
Right. So because I don't have those things yet, it just makes me feel like some type of way, and it puts me in a different mindset. It does not make me feel good. And at the end of the day, if I'm starting with Instagram, at the end of the day, I'm just basically ending with Instagram, and it's just like a whole roller coaster of just like a downside, so to speak.
It creates self-doubt that you didn't have before.
It really does. And honestly, I've left social media since the beginning of January, I think it was. And I mean,
as soon as we got back from Asia, basically, we did Christmas, and then you were like, okay, I don't want to touch this stuff anymore.
Yeah, and I feel way better. I really do. I love it.
And I'm the other side of the coin. I love social media, but that's because I don't compare myself to other people, and I get a little dopamine every time someone hits like. And I genuinely love to start conversations with people and talk to people I haven't talked to in a long time, because I'm just a little social butterfly.
Yeah, I think this is why a lot of people definitely say is that we are the yin and the yang.
Yeah, we are nothing alike. It works out so well, though.
It really does, and I love it, every bit of it.
With that being said, his work ethic, 50 Cent, he said it can be hard on the people around him because he is always competing with himself, and he goes hard. So he'll do an 18-hour work day, right? And then he'll get home at 3 a.m. And then his driver, he'll say, yo man, come back and pick me up for the gym at 5 a.m. He says that knowing that his driver is only going to be able to a couple hours to sleep, maybe only a nap in his car. But he said the people that roll with him just have to know that. A lot of people who work with him compare him to a robot or a machine. But he says, I'm made of flesh and blood just like everyone else, but I want it more.
Yeah,
and,
he does.
And him wanting it more is the whole difference. He said, no one is ever going to outwork me. And Sebastian actually wrote a note here because The Rock has the same exact mindset.
Yeah, I love Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, my God, this is one guy that I definitely would love to sit down and interview myself.
I wish he would write a book.
Right? I definitely would buy that in an instant. But no, I've watched so much of him that he says that all the time. He never wants to be at work, and I feel it like 50 Cent. He doesn't want to be at work. He just wants to know that he's putting in as much as he possibly can out there, and with putting in 18-hour days and only sleeping 1 to 2 hours a day sometimes.
Yeah, because he always gets his workout in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Always, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, he's never missed a session, which wow.
That's a monster right there. That man is a monster.
I love the gym, and I've missed plenty of sessions.
I'm learning to love the gym, and I miss sessions all the time. All the time. So that really impressed me, knowing that no matter what, if everything else fails, he gets that gym session in, because here's the next section. He commits to a clean lifestyle.
Yeah.
50 Cent.
This one really surprised me.
He doesn't drink, he doesn't do drugs, and he never has.
Yeah, that one right there is the surprising part. I understand the people or the rappers that stopped doing that, but he never, ever.
Like, even from the beginning when he was selling on the block, he was not doing drugs or drinking with everyone else. He said committing to a clean lifestyle is so important because it's not enough just to say you want to work hard. You have to commit to lifestyle choices that allow you to have the energy, focus, and stamina to actually do the work too. So many people prioritize lifestyle over work and then wonder why they can't get ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all that.
And that's something Sebastian specifically is better than me at, because even with drinking, if we go out, what's the most drinks you usually have?
I probably drink 2 drinks, maybe if I'm wild, maybe 3. But
if he's feeling real crazy.
Yeah, I don't like to drink very much. It's not my thing. I definitely understand what 50 Cent is coming from completely. Yes, I used to drink. Yes, I partied in college. I did all the things, but that's not my thing anymore. I don't like it.
I do like to drink, but I live with Sebastian, and we've created this amazing lifestyle, and we've worked very hard to committing to a clean one. We don't do drugs. I will say I smoke weed.
Yeah, we do that.
A lot, but that
for
is
personal reasons.
Yeah, like I have anxiety and depression and ADHD. It's a fun little bag I play with, and it's actually something I use medicinally because it really does help me. As long as I'm eating clean, working out, and smoke from time to time, my anxiety and my depression do not come at me.
Yeah, absolutely. I use it to go to sleep and to focus on different things in my own way.
But he specifically, there's a part where he's like telling people that like weed is the same thing, but that's one part where 50, I do disagree with you, but it's okay.
But I do understand where he's coming from, because from an entrepreneur perspective, you want to be able to like handle every type of situation. You want to have control of the situation at all times. Not only has he said it, but many other entrepreneurs have said it as well. Like, yes, they've done drugs, but they don't do not drugs, but like marijuana. They don't do that anymore because it kicks them out of focus to them personally. You know, other individuals, it makes them focus a whole lot more, but to him, it does not at all. He wants to have every bit of the control in the situation. If he's doing a deal, he doesn't want to be high. He wants to know where he's at. If he is with his son, he wants to be focused on him. If he wants to be with his girlfriend, whatever it may be.
But if he is playing his 50 Cent persona as opposed to his Curtis Jackson, he will give you the perception that he is drinking and partying and smoking. Because right. when he is in the club with a bunch of his friends, when he takes a bottle of champagne and he'll pour everyone a drink first until it's empty. Once it's empty, he'll quietly hand it to one of his guys and have them go fill it up with ginger ale. So throughout the night, it'll look like he's still drinking and partying with you, even if he's not. And he never does. He also has hung out with Snoop Dogg and been with Snoop Dogg on stage. And then, Snoop passed him something to smoke. And 50 Cent was like, dude, I don't even smoke, so you best believe I did not smoke it. But he did put it up to his lips, and he put it in his mouth, swirled it around in his mouth, and blew it back out. Because he wanted it to look, he didn't want anyone to, kill their vibe. He wants everyone around him to be happy and still have fun. And he was able to do that. And he was like, trust me, I did not inhale. I already don't smoke. You think I can handle what Snoop is smoking?
Funny guy.
But right there, he says staying sober in a setting where everyone else is drinking can open up all sorts of opportunities for you.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to bring one example, and that's our friend Conrad. He definitely took that, I guess, sort of like general, I guess, what is in that sentence, so to speak, very serious. One day, me and my friend Brandon, which I keep talking about, I love you, man. But we were out for Conrad's 30th birthday, I believe, and we just basically said some things that night that kind of just like hit him in the head and was like, why am I just out here just drinking and kind of like wasting my life away, so to speak. I guess that's the way he looked at it. And then from that day, the next day he woke up, and I believe, I guess he was reading a book of 2 Chainz.
Oh, yeah.
What was it that he said?
I think it was 2 Chainz, but like whoever it was, they brought up how it feels when they're running.
Yeah, and then from there, he just started running and kind of like did a Forrest Gump and just never stopped.
He literally just kept running and running.
No, he did not run like 2,000 miles that day, but I mean, he loved running. He made him very focused, and now this guy looks unbelievable. Like the transformation on him.
And his
unreal.
business sense, he's since now got his own business. He's working in real estate, and he's like really grinding, like he's hustling harder, hustling smarter, like
yeah.
So
this man definitely turned his life around, and almost every single time that I talk to him, he literally thanks me and Brandon and MK every time, and we're just like, I mean, yes, we said some things, but you did the work.
You did it all, because he just 180'd. Yeah, so in that, 50 says, you don't ever want to depend on anything or any other person to make you feel in control and comfortable. That sense of confidence should always come from within, not from an external source. And he's saying that because so many artists say they can't do their music, they can't write, they can't do whatever without drinking or without smoking, or they don't have the creative ability otherwise. And that's where he is telling people, maybe don't drink, maybe don't smoke. If you get to a point where you think you have to have that thing, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So when it comes to your sense of accomplishment and completing tasks and hustling for yourself, he's just telling you can't depend on anybody but you, and you've got to do the work to get there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So he said if alcohol or drugs have that sort of pull on you, it's important that you address it head on. It's going to require a lot of discipline and focus, but you can build a lifestyle for yourself that doesn't need to be fueled by booze and drugs to get things done. And especially where in his community, where he is coming from, that's what they are doing. They're smoking, they're drinking. He talks about his friends, but he never wants to put a damper on what's going on.
No, not at all. He stays very self-aware of his surroundings. He wants to make sure that he's comfortable and that everybody else is comfortable, which is very nice of him.
Yeah, that's actually what a sweetheart.
He really is.
You're so sweet, Curtis. That's the Curtis. You know that ain't 50. So on that, this is where he really impressed me, because then not only does he talk about the things he talks about his losses and the things he messes up, right? And how you need to learn from them, but he also talks about things that he needs to improve on himself, because then he brings up sleep. And he said staying up all night might help you get more things done in the moment, but in the long term, it proves to be very counterproductive. And he learned that from the former Google CEO, Eric Schmidt, who said the real secret is the most successful people have awareness of what their body needs, and they sleep whenever necessary. And I told you, sometimes 50 will go work an 18-hour day, go home, sleep 2 hours, and then by 5 a.m. he's back in the gym and he goes again.
Yeah, and that takes a very heavy toll on your body. Yes, your body can definitely adapt to a lot of situations, but at the end of the day, it needs sleep. It's basically like another different type of fuel for your body. Yes, you need food, but you also need sleep, for sure.
Yeah, and so with that, he hasn't just automatically been like, so now I sleep 9 hours a night. No, that's not who he is. So the next thing he tells you is, if you're going to do this, you can't just do it all at once. And that sucks, but like you can't. So like if people are going to try and stop smoking or drinking, you just be like, I'm not going to smoke or drink anymore. Well, that's setting yourself up for failure. But if you say, I'm not going to smoke or drink for the next week, And you just get through that week, and then, all right, now I'm not going to smoke or drink for this, just the rest of this month, you know? And by the time you take it day by day, by 30 days are up, it's so much easier. So he's trying to help people break those habits. And for him, he's not going to be able to just go into sleeping all the time. So now he's like on Sunday nights. Saturday nights is the only morning he can sleep in is Sunday morning. So on Saturday nights, he's now going to try and get extra sleep in, or he might go to bed early on a Sunday. Either way, he's going to now try and get those couple extra hours of sleep in, but only that one day a week.
Yeah. And
as a start.
As a start, yeah. And then eventually I'm sure it'll move to 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and so on and so forth. Baby steps.
Yeah. And when it comes to breaking those habits, he says you're going to be amazed by how much you can accomplish when you free up your focus and put everything you have into your work.
I love that. I love that so much because focus is so powerful. The power of focus, my goodness, which is basically the next.
Hard work and finding your focus, the header. Hard work and dedication are two of the characteristics found in all true hustlers, but another is focus. I struggle so hard with focus, but I have ADD, so I literally have attention deficit disorder, a focus deficit. And since Sebastian's when you first met me, I was flying a kite without a string. I could not get tasks completed. Actually, when we first started dating, most of the things we had to work through were my lack of focus and awareness. And it was completely non-existent, and I had to work so hard because I was on Adderall my whole life. And I literally depended on it because I started taking it in 3rd grade, and I never stopped. Until I met Sebastian, I actually got all the way off Adderall and started eating clean and working out and finding other ways to find my focus, which is why I was so off. I was trying to figure out how to not depend on this drug that doesn't have enough research for me to be on it for so long. So focus is something I've always struggled with, and it is something I've been so amazed to watch Sebastian, because his focus is so on point, especially when I put it in comparison with mine.
Right. I mean, I do deviate a lot of times.
No one is perfect.
No one is perfect. I mean, if I was perfect, I would be doing something completely, I don't know, probably something else. I don't know. But at the end of the day, yes, I do have more focus than you because I guess I know what the angle is, and I know what the baby steps are, and I just want to take it one step at a time, so to speak. Which not everybody's brain functions like that. Everybody's different. It is what it is. You just have to know yourself and just know how to get there.
So in finding your focus, he brings up another anecdote, and it's about this man Isaac. And Isaac has gone to jail, and he is innocent. And he refused to accept his sentence. His name's Isaac Wright Jr. It was the early 1990s. He was wrongly imprisoned on a life sentence in New Jersey for being an alleged drug kingpin. In fact, he was one of the first people convicted under that statute in New Jersey. The one problem with that was that he was actually innocent and no one was listening to him. So he found his focus. He spent every single minute he could in jail reading on law and learning about law, even though he didn't understand a word of what he was learning. He read it and figured it out. He taught himself law to the point where he was able to get himself off.
I love it so much. He literally self-taught himself law.
I think it took 9 years. And while he was in, he helped countless other inmates get off that were innocent as well through what he learned in jail. And now he's a practicing lawyer in New Jersey, the state that put him away for life. And he actually has a movie made about him that 50 Cent, For Life on ABC based on his story.
Yeah.
So in case you're interested in that, For Life.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. Sounds interesting. But he was hustling for the most important goal, freedom. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what we're all hustling for. We just don't realize it because we're not locked in a prison cell.
Right. His sole focus was only thinking of the word freedom. And wherever he went, wherever he was, it didn't matter who was around him. He was only thinking freedom, freedom, freedom. And just because he was always thinking that and only focused on that word, he was able to get himself out of that whole shenanigans.
Yep. The shenanigans that he did not even bring upon himself.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nightmare. I could only imagine what he went through.
Yep, and he said that wave could pick you up and help carry you to whatever goal you're aiming for, the wave of your focus. So on that, he then goes to say his next header is passion makes perfect. And if you're not passionate about the thing you're doing, you're going to be miserable. So he then talks about his passion for acting, which, again, this is where he blows me away because my background is acting. And I had no idea, but 50 Cent says my passion for acting is just as strong as it is for music or business. There was one point where he was supposed to do a movie with Robert De Niro. And Robert De Niro actually called 50 Cent up and was like, look, are you actually serious about this or are you just doing it? Because I want to know right now. And that's when 50 Cent told him, because apparently he's always looked up to Robert De Niro. He wants to be one of the greats, and that's one of the things he's doing right now is hustling so hard with his acting career to be respected. And Robert De Niro did end up dropping out of the role, but not because of 50 Cent. But he has always wanted to work with him since then, and ever since then he actually has kept in touch and become friends with him. So when he's working, he's looking for the same kind of passion in the people he works with that he has. So he looks at stuff like Tupac, who committed to his passion the way De Niro committed to his role in Casino or Goodfellas. You could say that Pac was so committed that he ultimately paid for it with his life because he was a poet that actually then used a persona of Tupac to be a gangster rapper to get forth his message. So when he looks at people that he wants to go into work with, he's looking at he wants that same kind of passion. Maybe you don't have to put your life on the line, but maybe be willing to consider it. It might sound dramatic, but that level of commitment is often what it takes.
Yeah, that is a lot of commitment.
Yeah, and that's when he asks you, what are you hustling for?
Yeah. Love that question. That's something that I literally had to personally ask myself at one point in life. I don't know if it was 1, 2, or 3 years ago, but I know I did it, and when I finally figured that one out, like I could see the end goal, so to speak, clear.
Yeah, clear, more clearly.
More clearly.
So in things that kind of shook his perspective, now he's so successful. He's got a driver. He's riding around, And one day he's riding around and he looks out the window and he tweets, "Yo, I just saw a grown man listening to music and playing handball by himself in the middle of the day. I've been on the phone working. His life might be better than mine." And a lot of his followers thought he was being a troll because they were like, "Yeah, right. You like Curtis Jackson, you got the best life. You're doing it all." And 50 Cent is literally thinking about, what am I hustling for in that moment? Because he's like, yo, is this guy fucking beating me in life? He seemed to have what I've always wanted above all else. Freedom. The freedom to do what I want, when I want, and how I want. Because right there, he's in a prison of his own making. He's got commitments. He's got to go do them. And he's like, dang, that guy's so free, he can just go out and play handball. He also shows you the other perspective. Maybe that guy's wife just left him and he's pissed and he needs to work it out. There could be other reasons for him out there, but it did something for 50 at the same time. He was like, I need to be enjoying what I'm doing too. Luckily, he does enjoy everything he's doing, but in that moment, he was like, dude, I could play handball.
Yeah. A lot of people think that just because you have all this fame and money and all this stuff that, like, I guess those people think that they're free, so to speak. When in reality, I guess the real freedom is just being able to do whatever it is that you want to do at any point in time. If I want to get up right here, right now, and go outside and play soccer, I can.
Yeah.
It's the power of choice. It's what I want to do.
Because of that, he also points out that in that want to do whatever you want, whenever you want, a lot of people aren't clear on what they want at all. Which comes back to, what are we hustling for? What if you don't know? Like, that's another reason when Sebastian said the reason his focus might be so much better than mine is because he has an end goal and knows what he wants. I have no idea what I want out of life. I have so many different passions and so many things I want to do. Right now, this podcast is my everything. And it's just begun. Before that, I was painting all the time, or I was reading plays, or like, do I want to be an actor? Do I want to be an artist? Do I want to be a podcaster? I don't know what I want. So it's hard for me to find that focus. And he says a lack of clarity about what people really want is what's holding so many folks back. And so here we go, 50 Cent surprising me again. You want to know what his advice is to you? Make a vision board. He's huge on vision boards. He said vision boards are a very powerful tool in calcifying what you're working towards. He also says that as a couple, some couples haven't really thought about the future or talked about it, and an easy way for them would be to make separate vision boards. Just vision boards separately about what they want in life, and then come back and bring it together. And you can see things you've talked about, like holes and spaces, will be filled in, and that you didn't even think about, and it wasn't even something you were talking about. He told a journalist from GQ to make one with his girlfriend, and he did. And when he came back, he said his girlfriend's vision board had more babies than an orphanage, and they had never even talked about having kids, but the vision board put what she wanted front and center. He said, I've seen vision boards make a real difference in people's lives. A study by Dominican University found that you're 42 times more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down. And a study in Psychological Bulletin found that people are 90% more likely to achieve their goals if they are challenging and specific. So not even something broad, you got to figure out what you want.
Yes, you have to be very specific on what it is that you want, because, something broad is something broad. Like...
What are you... if I look and I'm like, I want to be an artist.
Yeah.
Okay, there's so many forms of art. Podcasting is a form of art.
Yeah, it's like what I went for school, business management. All right, what business do you want to manage? I'm not sure, because it's very broad. It's a lot to think about. It's not very specific. I know what I want to do now. I definitely do, because I finally figured it out. But once you finally figure out the actual end goal, that real vision board, so to speak, you'll be able to put it all together in little tiny steps. So definitely I suggest a vision board as well, which we're gonna do.
Yeah, I've never made a vision board, and Sebastian's actually been talking about vision boards with me for a while, especially because I'm an artist.
Yeah, that's why I was so excited whenever I read it from his book. I was like, yes, we're definitely gonna do one now.
I have to.
My type of vision board right now is that I have a board in front of me of my daily goals, my weekly goals, and my monthly goals, and then whatever else I want to add onto it that makes me stay focused on what it is that I want to do. So if that works for you, definitely do that. I know I have a friend of mine, Brandon, he does that as well, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. And he religiously does it. Sebastian wakes up in the morning, and I watch him write his daily goals. And throughout the day, every time he completes one, he erases it off, and you can just see dopamine hit the brain. He's just like, yeah, complete, killing it.
It's like my little likes on Facebook, but
yeah.
It's my own personal
yeah,
to myself.
Dopamine.
Good job, Sebastian.
And that actually takes us to the last piece of these chapters, which is to never break your stride. Because making those vision boards, the reason it's so important is because then even if something fails or something doesn't work out the way you wanted it to, you still have a vision of what you're looking for. But otherwise, that could really mess you up. Some people, a setback will ruin things for them, and they'll give up or they'll blame something else. And he's telling you never break your stride. As you probably realize, hustling can also mean selling drugs. My mother was a hustler in that sense. I was too, as were a lot of my friends and enemies back in Queens. And I'm not going to give you a crash course on drug dealing here. I've talked about that. But what I want to let you know is the attitude you have to develop. Because he taught us a story about how if he bought drugs and they were cut with something like a laxative and he didn't know it, he didn't just dwell and be like, I just lost all this money. He goes, I'll make it up on the next bag.
Yeah.
And just keep going. Because if you want to complain that the system is rigged against you, no shit, of course it is. You need to get to work outsmarting to make it work for you. How do you make the system work for you instead of against you? Yeah. And that he was specifically talking about drug dealing. And even though he was using a anecdote about drug dealing, it completely is relatable, because the system is rigged against all of us. Anyone who wasn't born rich and white, the system is rigged against you. And so it's really cool that he can use this drug analogy, but he's like, look, I'm not just talking about drugs. Anyone can, don't be blaming other people. Don't let a failure get in your way. You take it in stride and just say, I'll make it up on the next bag.
Yeah, you're always gonna have things going against you, because if everything was going right for you, then what about everybody else? that just doesn't add up. So just definitely be okay with just failing. Failing's okay.
The L's are so important. And to end it out, 50 says, here's the bottom line. Whether you're a rapper, a stockbroker, a scientist, a school teacher, or a drug dealer, you're going to experience peaks and valleys, no matter what.
Yeah.
You could be at your all-time high, killing it. You're in love. You're married. You are making all the money. One little thing out of your control could happen. What if someone happens to someone in your family? Or what if you're a stockbroker and one day, it crashes? The stocks crash and you have nothing all of a sudden. Like, you have to be always ready to take it in stride, because if it's good right now, it's never just stays good, because it's life.
Yeah, no, it's just like when people buy stocks, I guess some people think that they're always going to rise forever, and that's not the case. That's literally impossible. There's always going to be a point where it just stops.
Yeah.
And
So
life is just like a giant chart. There's definitely higher highs and higher lows.
Yeah, and lower lows.
Lower lows.
So that's what we got from just the intro and the first 2 chapters of Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. This book's fantastic. It actually hurt me to not keep going, but now that I'm done recording almost, I get to start my next reading.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this book so far. The first 2 chapters plus the introduction were amazing. I actually read it and then I listened to it on the audiobook as well. It was like my second time trying that, and I really liked it. I mean, I just cooked and did my thing and just listened to it, and I caught quite a few nuggets that I had missed when I read it.
And it's different to hear him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're actually hearing him say his words.
Yeah.
Because I have not heard the audiobook.
It's like you're actually listening to his perspective, and it makes you take it in even better.
So next week, we're going to hit up some more of his perspective. We would like for you to read chapters 3 and 4.
Yes.
And then we'll come back. I know I said these episodes are going to be 25 to 30 minutes, but that's because I was a lame noob and I didn't know what I was doing. So we're not going to put any restraints on ourselves.
Yeah, it's very hard because there's a lot of things that I might be thinking when I'm reading, and then that I want to say, and then they're way longer than I thought, and then I just end up talking way more than I need to, so to speak. But at the end of the day, that's the whole point of the podcast.
Yeah.
We get to talk about whatever it is that we want to do. We want to show you our perspective, and we want to hear from you guys as well.
Yes. So thank you so much for listening to episode 2. We did it. This is the first book club. We did it. We read a book together. Well, the first part of a book together.
Yes. Thank you guys for listening.
I hope you have a great week.
Yeah. See ya.
See ya.